Welcome, everyone. This is The Art of Pivoting Your Life, and I'm Michelle Carbone. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist and intuitive coach. And today I have a lovely guest who is going to do a little coaching with her and give a little guidance. So Louise, welcome.
Hi, Michelle.
Hello. And you want to speak up a little bit if you can, just so,
Okay,
yeah,
can you hear me? Hold on.
phones.
Okay, volume's up.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
tell me about, let's go over what we need guidance on.
Well, I have the questions summarized here, and then, if you want a little bit more around it, I will gladly provide
Of
more
course.
detail. Okay. My question is, how can I sidestep the conflict that arises between me and my spouse every time his good intentions, in quotations, to help me manifest as transactional problem solving strategies and override my need for emotional attunement, leaving no room for give and take, with
Yeah.
him reverting to his default programming of coming to a unilateral decision, leaving me out,
Yeah.
dysregulating my nervous system by echoing the emotional withholding and abuse I experienced in my childhood home.
Right. Um, so let's let's deconstruct that a little bit.
I know.
Give me an example of just like how it
Okay.
goes.
Yes, this weekend I was in the garage, and it's been a project that has been put on hold for a couple of years because of this, that, and the other thing. So I was in there, and I realized that my particle board shelf was basically falling down. But there were other things besides the particle board shelf that I would have desire to address. But that being the most practical, my husband just went on to it like white on rice and started, as I'm telling him about my experience in the garage and what my vision is for the project. He's basically researching. He's got Home Depot on the screen, and
Right.
he's looking for the shelf, which in his mind is going to be plastic. I do not buy plastic things, and I do not buy things retail. I only buy things thrifted or recycled, and that's just the way I am. I've always been that way.
Yeah.
So I got offended inside because he's applying his solution and just completely overriding
And not listening to you.
my sensibilities.
Right.
Yeah,
Like, yeah. Um, and then you get dysregulated when he's not listening.
I do.
Yeah.
He has good intentions. I
Right.
know it's unintentional, that it's due to his abundance of cognitive empathy that he needs to fix.
Right.
But I'm looking for emotional empathy, and my nervous system reacts as though it's being threatened. And then we go off to the races because neither one of us feels seen or heard.
Right.
Do you have any strategies?
Yeah. So a few things, and I know you've done
Mhm.
some work on, you know, the nervous system and regulating it,
Yes.
right? Like you're
Yes.
knowledgeable about that. But I think, it's a book you recommended to me that taking this from that complex PTSD, surviving to
Mhm.
thriving. It's those emotional flashbacks basically that like it's a nervous system flashback. Like you're not flashing back to a certain moment, but it's like this kind of thing.
Yep.
So
Of being left out of the
yeah, like
equation.
and then not being heard. So like one suggestion I would have is, and this is something that I've had to do myself, is take a breath and remind yourself that that's what's happening. And that's not necessarily an easy practice to do, right? Like it's
Yes.
not an automatic thing for us to, when we're in a dysregulated state, to be able to go, oh, wait a minute. Okay, this is what's happening. So you almost have to
Exactly.
like,
Because yeah.
yeah, you have to like train yourself to remind yourself. So my suggestion would be to, uh, and this is something that I discussed with my ex-husband, is that when we got to, well, when he would have a meltdown, I told him like, okay, when you get in that state, I'm going to remove myself. So I just want you to know this isn't about you, but like for myself and my own nervous system and my own healing process, I'm going to step away. And it's not about you, it's about me. and telling him in advance when he was, in a calm state, right? Like not while he's having a meltdown, like, hey, I'm gonna shag butt out of here, but just like, okay, like I need to remove myself from this because it would, I mean, the dogs would be freaking out and, he'd throw things and all that. So telling him in advance, like, hey, this is how this is going to be handled. And it's not about you, it's about me, helped. And then I could remove myself. So telling him, like, I want you to know that when my nervous system is getting triggered, it's not necessarily, about the pegboard or whatever, right? Like it's not
Right. A
necessarily
part of the
about
board.
that, but I'm being, having a discussion of like I'm being, my nervous system is getting put into a state that I was in as a child, and my little
That's right.
6-year-old is in charge. And when she's in charge, I'm going to remove myself because nothing beneficial is going to happen in our communication during this time, right? So when you remove,
Yeah,
so if you
right.
just go, oh my God, I'm so triggered right now, I'm going to leave, and remove yourself. And then you can take some time, do some breathing. And you want to breathe out longer than you breathe in because that's going to, calm your heart rate down, and that's going to help you feel more calm, because when our heart rate is raised, that's telling our brain we're in danger, and you go into fight or flight or freeze, or whatever your default, is when you're in that state, right? And then
Oh,
remind
yeah. Just
yourself,
anger.
yeah, anger, whatever, right? Like, and then remind yourself, okay, this is not necessarily about this thing. This is my
Right.
nervous system is getting thrown into this state because this is reminding me of something else.
It's so interesting because at the end of it, when we come back, after a few days to calm down and we each think about it, and then I want to really understand where he's coming from. He's trying to help. He's
Yes,
trying to find the shelf,
yes,
And meanwhile, it's completely like it's so fast in the way that the help is offered in such a way that doesn't attune to me.
right.
That is the other like it's just a terrible trigger because I've gotten a better with other triggers, and I know that as soon as I go into my bedroom and I take the breaths, I calm down. But
Hmm.
there are certain topics and certain behaviors that I'm still having a huge problem, controlling
Well, and can we
my
look at that
my reaction.
differently?
How is that? You're
How,
good at that.
yeah,
How?
how can
How?
we see that? We can see that as, look at the progress I've already made.
Mhm.
Look at the things that I'm able to handle so much better now. I'm learning
Yes.
to walk,
That,
and now I'm trying to run, so I need to learn how to run,
that's right.
right? Like we don't just start
Yes.
running, and I'm
No.
never going to be
No.
running, right? But like
Right. Probably not
I'm never
me
going to
either.
run unless it's some sort of crazy person's chasing me, and it's for my life. And even then I might be like, all right, I can't run. Just take me. But,
What do you want?
it's like eh, giving yourself some grace and
Yes.
some
Yes.
compassion, right? Because we never get to a
Ah.
state where we're not triggered. I mean, it lives, it's in our nervous system, right? Like it's
It,
a
it
part of
it's
us.
this
We
this
just get
how do you
better
call it?
at flipping it.
Pervasive. It's a pervasive lovelessness that lands on me. I just it just becomes like all encompassing,
Yeah.
and
Now,
I can't think straight.
have you talked to him about like, hey, I realize that you want to fix things, but
Mm.
what I would really prefer from you is for you to just listen and wait until I'm done, and then maybe we can talk about the solution together. I don't need you to
Oh,
fix it, right? Like, have you had that conversation
yeah.
yet?
Um, Maybe not enough times, but definitely. I
Yeah,
remember before I even started healing, I would say to him, I want to talk about where we're going to go out to dinner, but I don't want you to decide. I want to have the conversation.
right.
This was
But
this
see,
was me
here's the
20
thing
years
with
ago.
him, right? He is very literal.
Yes.
So you're going to have that conversation in a way that's not just about dinner.
Right.
right? Like and also realize that he is in a state where for him, when he sees you struggle or whatever, right? Like
Yes.
his response, his automatic response is to fix it, is to
Yes.
step in. He wants to be the hero,
Yes.
right? And that's what a lot of
Yeah, and
people have that.
me denying him that is actually what triggers him because
Exactly,
he
right?
feels right. So it's like
So
it's a mutual trigger fest
is that
over
yes, and
something
that's the
ridiculous.
in relationships, this is what happens. You know, it's like one person has one thing trigger them and one person has another thing, and then it's this whole dance of of triggers going back and forth. So
Oh,
you have to learn
yes.
how to you know, he'll have to do some work too and understand,
Yes.
okay, so you know, you'll have to get general with um, anytime something happens and I get triggered, you or anytime there's an issue or a you know, whatever, or a decision, you know, I realize that you want to come in and part of what you want to do for me because you love me is to
Mhm.
fix it. And the way you're showing love is to fix it.
Right.
Right. But what I would love
Right.
to receive from you is just you to listen to me and to, you know, not get on your phone and look for shelves and not get into immediate
Right.
fix it mode, right? And you might even come
Yeah.
up with like a code phrase or something and
Mm.
make it funny, like, "Oh,
Funny.
hey, Mr. Fix It, I don't let's put Mr. Fix It
Right.
away," or right like something, you know,
Yes.
light.
Like I want to brainstorm. I don't want to I want to there's nothing like two minds coming together that it goes into another realm and you come up with better solutions. I'm a collaborator.
Right. So yeah, so getting into that space, it's going to take practice, right? And it's
Mhm.
going to take a lot of communication,
Yes.
right? So like, but but in the moment when, you know, as far as handling yourself, I would just, you know, explain to him, let's have a conversation. And for me, like anytime I have to have a difficult conversation, I have to write it down because I know
Right.
I'm going to lose my train of thought or I'm going to like go off on a tangent about something else completely different. So to keep myself focused, like I'll
Yeah.
write it down. And I've even found that sometimes communicating in writing is can be a better start to the conversation of
Yes.
like, let me get all this out if he's willing to, you know, read. Sometimes I'm
Oh, he
like, I
definitely
wrote
is.
like a
He
novel,
does.
sorry.
He is willing.
Do what?
No, no. He is willing. He
Yeah,
is willing.
right. So like taking that time to like gather your thoughts and try to be as general as you can because if you're specific, he's going to apply it to that thing, but not the why. Like his mind can't associate it with the other things,
Right.
right?
That is
So
very true.
and having compassion for him will help you,
Yes.
right? And seeing him for where he's at will help you,
Yes.
right? So like taking the time to just go, okay, I'm dysregulated, right? Like in advance, you've told him when I'm dysregulated, I'm going to leave the room. And maybe you even have a code word and just go, you
Yes.
know, dysregulated and you're out or whatever, right? Banana,
Right.
and then leave and then get yourself in a better place. And then you can come back when you're calm and just say, you know, my little 5-year old was in charge for a moment and I'm feeling better. And how I would like to move forward is blah, blah, blah. You know, like how I would like
Right.
to move forward is actually us working together. You know, what I think would be really fun is if we go to thrift stores and we whatever and get
Yep.
something unique for the shelves, right? Like I want to solve
Right.
this problem in a creative way and not just get a plastic shelf,
Right.
right? But you couldn't
Which.
say
I
that
never
in the
have.
moment because you were dysregulated.
Right, because I can't, because I feel invisible.
Right.
Because I feel like I don't compute for him.
Yeah. So yeah, like I think removing yourself, is that something that you think you could do?
Well, I have been making progress with removing myself, and I have told him when I do go, do not follow,
Yeah.
and we're doing good with that. This particular incident just came out of left field. I don't know why. I don't know why this particular one. Maybe because this project has been on hold for so long, and now it's time, and he's reverting back to his default, and he's not taking into account the changes that we've been making as far as the collaboration and the reciprocity. Like, let's put our heads together.
Right. Yeah. And maybe
So
even starting the
that really got me.
conversation with, I want to collaborate with you on this.
Yes.
Let's take turns giving our ideas.
I think what happens, Michelle, is that I forget about this um, opposing wiring. Let's
Right.
call it
Well,
that. Yeah,
and it's,
I forget.
of course, it's easy to forget. It's normal. Like you've done nothing
Yes,
wrong. He's done nothing wrong. Like it
right.
it's really just, it is that miscommunication and difference in brain function.
Yes,
And so the more you remind yourself of that,
yes,
the more you'll remember. Is that
yes.
like, it's like you'll create a
And
new
it is
neural
coming to
pathway of understanding.
and it is coming to pass that the
Yeah,
pain, when it does go off the rails, is showing me that compassion for myself and for him is of the utmost importance because I end up in a world of hurt and misery.
exactly. And and you don't want that, and neither does he. I mean,
Right.
right? And he
No,
wants, and he may feel misunderstood too. He might be like,
he does.
"Oh, she doesn't let me love her. I'm just trying to love her," when really he's trying to fix you.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
for him,
It's
that's what that
it's
means. And have you guys ever had the like love language conversation? I'm sure you probably have.
you know what? I thought I had two copies of that book and I can't even find one. So no.
But even just getting online, looking at
Uh-huh.
there's tests, right? And just be
Mhm.
like, "Hey, let's talk about our love languages." And know that how you give love isn't necessarily how you want to receive it.
It's funny because the way I've been, I guess, naive because I give love in the way that I want to receive it.
Right. And a
But
lot
I
of people do
realize
that. But
I'm
I
not,
have
I didn't get
found,
it, so I'm definitely rethinking that one.
yeah, I've found like sometimes it's different. Like I'm not someone who likes to give gifts. Like I will buy people stuff if I see something, but I'm not just going to buy a gift to buy a gift. Like it's more like, "Oh, I saw this thing and it reminded me of you, or I thought you'd really like it or whatever." Or I was just like, "Oh, you have to have that." Like I just bought my mom like the cutest ceramic mug that like a person made, not at a store, like an artist made it. And I was like, "Oh my God, that belongs to my mom." So I bought it, even though she and I have a no gifts policy. Because we're like, like we can buy our own stuff. We don't need to buy each other gifts. But because I thought of her, I would, give it to her.
Yes.
But I'm not really a gift giver that much. I don't like being forced to give gifts. However, I love to receive stuff. if it's if it's meaningful,
Well, you'll have to give me your address.
right? If it's meaningful. But it's like for me, I definitely, touch is my biggest one. Quality time together, also a big one.
Yes,
And
that would be his. I know. I don't even have to take his is acts of service,
yes, right?
but we have to discuss it.
And that's why he wants to fix things. And
That's right.
you can kind of explain to him, even like, "Hey, um when you try to fix things for me instead of just listening, it makes me feel
Mhm.
like this."
Yes.
right? Like, and what it's doing is triggering me into being a child where I never felt heard.
Right.
And if you want to
Disempowerment.
love me, how I would like to receive love in some way is for you to just simply listen without trying to fix
Yeah.
and listen
Quality
to
time.
understand, right?
Yes.
Because most of us are going around not listening to understand, we're listening to respond.
Yeah.
And if we can listen to understand, if we can be curious, so even
Yeah.
telling him, like, I would like you to be curious about me, you know, like, can he foster some curiosity? And because curiosity isn't judgmental, curiosity is searching
No.
for information.
It opens the door to discussion, which would be very welcome
Mm-hmm.
as far
And
as I'm
so
concerned
you may
about
have to
a
like
project.
start each conversation with a reminder to
Yes.
him, right? Until
Reminder.
he gets used to it.
Mhm.
And it's a reminder for
Yeah.
you.
Yes. That it could easily go off the rails, and to get myself ready to, like, get out of the room, because I don't want to have a few days of feeling, wake up in the morning, what's wrong? Why do I feel this way? Oh, right. We're sworn enemies at the moment.
Right? And then, you know, you can
Horrible.
recover quicker.
Yes.
And removing yourself will keep
Exactly.
it from spiraling too.
Yeah.
So if you think
If
about
it's
like
just
like
long.
I take a class that's sort of a spiritual class, and we were talking about momentum today. So this is very appropriate.
Mm,
So if you think about
mhm.
momentum, you know, when you're at
Right.
the top of the hill and you're going down, so if this is like, okay, my nervous system got triggered at the top of the hill and now I'm going down. When it's first triggered, you know, when you're first going down that hill, you're not going super fast.
That's right.
But you build
That's
more and
right.
more momentum and you're going faster and faster and faster the longer you wait. So like changing your momentum and going, oh, okay, nervous system's triggered, little girl's in charge. Let me remove myself and let me do something to
It's
change this trajectory of,
yes. I
right?
have to say that in these cases where I'm being, like, I feel ignored and not included, it's like that. There's a like a momentum
Yeah.
to get it out, to
Yeah.
get the rage, to get the, because it's not, I've never had that access to that
Yeah. And now you
voice
do,
to say
right?
this is
You're
yes.
creating it. So, and we have to wrap up here, but um, yeah, so like change your momentum. So like put a plan in place.
Mhm.
You know, this is what I'm going to
Okay.
do. This, you know, I'm going to do the breathing. Maybe there are, you know, thoughts you're going to choose to think. Maybe there is, maybe you're going to take a shower. Maybe
Yes.
you're going to take a nap because taking a nap will
Yep.
change your momentum. But yeah, just
Yes.
think about like, okay, I'm going to change this direction, and instead of going downhill, I'm changing it to uphill.
Yes.
I'm just going to change that momentum and just know, and it's going to take practice. So give yourself some grace.
And then maybe instead of taking it out on him, I go and I talk into my voice memo,
Yeah,
or I write it in my journal,
exactly.
and that way it comes out and I
Yeah.
get to verbalize it, but I
Yes.
don't, pelt him with it.
Right. And being your, and understanding that, and because you're choosing to stay with him, you have to give
Yes.
yourself that validation, that attention, that love in the way
Yeah.
that you wish to receive it. And you have to regulate your
Yep.
own nervous system.
Yes.
And co-regulation can happen,
Absolutely.
but it's not as easy with him, right? So it's
Exactly.
like I just
Exactly.
need to
And
understand this
that is
is, there's nothing wrong with it.
that
This
is
is reality, and this is what I'm going to do to compensate.
that is exactly it. I come into each discussion with an expectation of co-regulation.
Yeah.
You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
And I do not like to let it go. I do
Yeah.
not like to let that
Well, we
expectation go.
don't. We want it.
Thank you, Michelle. You are quite amazing.
Thank you.
Michelle, this is Steve. You are quite amazing, and
Oh,
we
thank you.
thank you so very, very much for what you've done for the last couple of months for our network, what you do for others to empower others. You are a really special person. And we're not going to be sad it's over. We're going to be happy that it happened. So
Yes.
how can people contact you in the future?
Yeah, so my website is zenmindmichelle.com. That's so that's ZenMindMichelle.com. And then it's ZenMindMichelle is my Instagram handle, Facebook, and email address at Gmail. So all the Zen Mind Michelles. And
Michelle,
thank you,
you're a
Steve, so much.
fantastic.
I've really appreciated working with you. And maybe I'll be back. We'll see. I just need a little
Yes,
break.
yeah, we're going to take a little break. We're going to negotiate behind the scenes, and we're going to remain friends. And you
Oh,
continue
yeah.
to do the great work that you do.
Awesome.
God bless you. Okay.
Thank you.
That's Michelle Carbone. Until we meet again.
Yes.